Welcome to Doctors on Doctors. Two physicians, one conversation, and clarity in every episode. I'm your moderator, Omar Al-Kayed, an intern-year medical graduate. Today's episode features Dr. Milanie Milan and Dr. Esha Jain. At the time this episode was filmed, Dr. Milanie was a research scholar in the Department of Surgery at Duke University Hospital and was eagerly awaiting her match results. Since then, we're excited to share that she has successfully matched into general surgery at Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Milanie graduated from the University of Balamand in Lebanon, making her an outstanding international medical graduate. Joining her is Dr. Esha Jain, a board-certified family medicine physician and a fellow international medical graduate, having earned her medical degree from the American University of Antigua College of Medicine. Both Dr. Esha and Dr. Milanie have built impressive careers in medical research, and they bring a wealth of experience to this conversation. In this episode, they share their journeys through research, the residency application process, and the lessons they've learned along the way.
Two physicians, one conversation, doctors on doctors.
That way, the things that you start out initially doing, which are case reports, are not as high impact as compared to meta-analyses. So maybe you can grow within the few years to getting from case reports to meta-analyses. I will say you give your dedicated time to step studying. Sure, what is that? 3 months, 6 months, you learn your material. But if you can have something in the background in your gap, every summer that I took off in my Caribbean medical school, I was either doing a clinical rotation or I was doing research. I was asking my preceptors, hey, do you have something that I can get a part of? And whether that was now or down the road, they knew that I was interested. So I think get your foot in the door even before you know you're applying to med school or you got that med school acceptance.
That makes total sense. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I also want to say, I think there is, in more recent years, research started becoming something that med students feel like they have to do. In the past, it used to be I'm interested in really doing research. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, and it's maybe it's not their fault because it's the system that's pushing them. Now you have to have publications to be able to even apply to med school, which I think is something that we should work on changing, because down the line, research, academia in general is not just about writing a paper. Sometimes it's about teaching, taking a teaching role, or just, participating in surgical education and in surgical education or medical education stuff. So I just want medical students out there listening to that podcast to know that academia is not just writing a paper or reading a paper. It can be so much more. And if you take the time to figure out what really interests you, then it's no longer going to be something you have to do. It's going to start becoming something you really want to get involved in.
That's quite interesting. Speaking of having to do research, so Dr. Esha, when you apply for the match, how would you say that the amount of research you had, or the quality of research, that's just the aspect of research in general in your application, had to do with you being accepted, as compared to things like your maybe step tests, exam results, clinical rotations, other relevant experiences? What chunk would you say went to your research experience?
So I can say, based on my application, since I went through the match twice, the first time I went through the match, I had 1 publication. The second time, I think I had 7, 8. Okay. I think research was a huge addition to my application based on the programs I wanted to apply to. If I wanted to go to an academic program or a program with a robust academic system, research was huge. It was you need research. You need research to be able to join these things. When I applied to community programs, I also got a bunch of interviews at community programs. They didn't really care about the research as much. They cared about me, the person, as well, but along with my experience in the field, my experience in family medicine, my recommendation letters, all that stuff. I think, though, that, and what I've realized from research is that if you have it, it's never going to be something that takes away from your application. It's always going to enhance your application, and especially if you've been involved in something that can be applicable to community and or academic programs. You can always talk about your involvement in a research group or a research paper in a way that a community program will want to hear about it. But I do think that research is so important. You're trying to find out new things. Like we learn about Ozempic, we learn about all of these medications that are good for you, or steroid creams that, back in the day, 20 years ago, they said don't apply it every single day. But now they say, take drug holidays because you don't want to cause discoloration of your skin. So it's very important to know how research amplifies medicine and why it's so important. It's not something that, like Dr. Milanie said, we should be forced into doing, but it has its hugest role in medicine. And if we don't contribute to it, we will lose a lot of the education that we're putting in. So I don't know. I think research is a really important thing in enhancing your application. It doesn't matter where you're applying.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, Dr. Melanie, speaking in a purely practical sense, what do you think program directors value the most? The number of publications someone would have, the quality of the research, how effective it is, how important it is, or is it the strong mentorship connections that the applicant would have? What do you think stands out the most?
So full disclaimer, I am not matched yet. So this is just my personal experience. And here I talked with many program directors and I'm just like echoing what they said. First of all, I think, so you mentioned the quality and quantity of research versus the mentorship and the networking. I think these are two very different things. And I don't think you should choose between one and another. Both are extremely important to have when you're preparing to apply to the match, regardless of the specialty, no matter how competitive the specialty is, quote unquote, because in my opinion, nothing is easy and everything is competitive for IMGs. But I think like they're two very different things. For the research aspect, quality over quantity, to me is more important because program directors interview so many applicants and they really want to hear about your research and why you're really interested in this work and what you learned from it and what they want to see passion when you're talking about this because they're hearing the same things over and over and over again. And if you really want to stand out, then you want to be talking about things that you're really interested in. That's the one reason why I would pick quality. The other thing is I think quality has many definitions. So quality publication is a publication in a peer-reviewed journal, or maybe a publication where you're first author, or maybe a publication where the senior author is like really well known in the field or the specific area where you're doing your research. So there are many definitions to it. I think as long as you really know how to talk about this work and you were really involved and helped in it, to me, it's something that really will add value to your application down the line. So just make sure that instead of listing the projects you did 10 years ago that have your name on it, make sure you have things that you can really talk about and be interested in.
Amazing, thank you. Okay, Dr. Esha, let's say we have some medical students, and this is something that, we always get lots of questions on, lots of people wondering about this and complaining about it as well. So people who say that they have no contacts, no connections, no lab experience, they know nothing about research, but they really want to match, to do the residency in the United States. What advice would you give to them? How would they be able to start? What would be the stepping stone into this world of research?
You have to see that we can change where people come from, right? Like if you don't have a financial ability to come to the States and get a clinical rotation, that's something that I can't change. So those are the factors that really do impede the candidate from getting where they want to be. The fact that Dr. Milanie says, just by her interaction with one person, she was able to open up that door. That interaction, the personal kind of interaction with somebody is huge just for somebody to get to know you. My advice to people that say that they don't have any way, they don't have any connections, is to reach out. There's a reason why I have a profile on Instagram. There's a reason why what Dr. Milanie does. We are not just here to show we did all these things. Yay, we're actually here to show you, hey, reach out to us, because we didn't have that when we were going through this. This is why I created my page. So reach out to us because we are now your connection. Why I started my page is because there was no way any of these doctors or any of these people knew my face as an IMG. Okay, I wanted them to know, and I got interviewed based off the stuff that I was putting on my social media. People reached out to me and said, hey, I want to recommend you. So you have to do the work. There's no easy, free golden ticket that's like, hey, you're going to come to the United States, you're going to come to Canada, wherever you want to go. You have to reach out, but we are here. And I'm just one person. She's just one person. There's so many people that are here actually really wanting to help. So that's my biggest advice. Find people on Twitter, find people on Instagram, find people on all of these, like maybe Reddit, whoever has gone through this, they are there willing to help.
It's very helpful, and it's honestly very inspiring what you are doing, helping other people, get to what they want to find and do in life. So thank you for that.
And I just hope everybody pays it forward. That's what I say. When people say like, "Oh my God, how can we thank you?" I'm just saying, do the same for the next person. That's it.
I completely agree. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Melanie, for someone like yourself, someone who is interested in pursuing a surgical specialty in the United States and matching into such a program, how strategic do you think that the research that they're working on should be?
Okay, so how strategic you mean? How much involvement in research should?
As in, as in technically how specific, how related to the field of surgery or whatever they want to do, rather than, we're just having general research in any kind of medicine, just do.
Yeah, I get
What
you.
I mean. Yeah.
So I think just put yourself in a program director's shoes, a surgeon interviewing you for, a surgery job. They only have 7 spots. I think they would want to fill it with people who really are committed to the field of surgery. And by looking at your CV, I think research is one way to show that I'm so interested in surgery that I want to advance the field, that I want to make it better, that I want to be part of the field growing, not just be a surgeon, but improve the field of surgery. So in my opinion, it's very important that your entire application really shows your interest, and research is a big way for you to show how committed you are to this mission. That being said, of course, it's hard sometimes to find specific research positions and things you're interested in. So in my case, I'm really interested in pediatric surgery, which is a fellowship, and I looked for positions in pediatric surgery, and the opportunity didn't present. So I eventually ended up doing research in surgical oncology. I'm still in the surgery field. Ultimately, I applied general surgery. So I'm also interested in general surgery. So I'm just saying all this to say it doesn't have to be specifically the kind of surgery you want to be doing, but at least, surgery in general, if you're applying to surgery, or family medicine, if you're applying to family medicine, you can have a mix. Like all of us start research somewhere, and honestly, opportunities depend on your mentors and the people around you. I used to have so many research in things related to medicine and OBGYN at some point, because this is what I had available in med school. But I think once you know what you want, you have to start working towards securing opportunities in that specific field.
Definitely. Thank you both for the wonderful responses. We'll be now moving on to the next segment of this episode, which relates to your residency journeys and the intricacies and details of those days when it comes to Dr. Esha, specifically the research, scholarship and work that you're doing, Dr. Melanie. So, Dr. Esha, looking back, what do you think was the turning point when the time came for your second match application that made you confident that you would match the second time?
I think it was the amount of interviews I was getting, first of all. So when you get a number of contiguous ranks in a specific specialty, you kind of know you'll likely match their stats. I think in general, I felt very confident about my application, my reference letters, and I worked on my interview skills. So I knew that the 2 interviews I had the first round, I was not that great. Okay, I did not present myself the way I wanted to. I did not show off my application. I think this is something huge that medical students do. We shy away from boosting ourselves. We've done so much work. We've done so many accolades. Now's the time to show that off. So I think that was a huge mistake. I wasn't really confident. Then when I look back, I think improving my interview performance was a huge game changer into these specialties that I'm at. Well, the programs that I got interviews from.
Well, this actually brings me to another question I was planning on asking you later on. But since you mentioned it, how would you say that you prepared for the interview season? Like, what are some techniques, strategies that you adopted in order to kind of just nail those interviews? You know what I mean?
So I didn't start preparing for interviews the moment I got the interview. This is a game, okay? You have to start preparing months before, you already know you're getting that interview. That mindset is key. So I started preparing months in advance. I did prepare with somebody who, and I've said this before, I took a course. It was a 1 hour course. I paid $600 for 60 minutes of this person's time. But she was a doctor. She graduated from Harvard, then she's practicing in Stanford. So she had these accreditations. Okay. I do think that that is highway robbery. I do think nobody should be paying that much for an interview special with anybody. But I think that that was huge in getting me to know my application and where I needed to change. But what I did after that was practice, practice, practice. I would recommend that you've collected all of these experiences in your life, start writing them down. You know, where a leadership experience, a volunteer experience, like how that made you relevant for the medical field. So collecting those experiences and being able to share them with somebody is very important. Then I recorded myself, I practiced with friends, and watching my recordings were really, really cringe. I would like play them back and I'd be like, oh my God, I hate the way that I'm talking, or I hate the way that I'm using my hands. But it's also good. You see, like I say a lot. Maybe this is something that I don't want to do. But practicing with other people was also very important. And then, yeah, just imagining that I already had that interview was probably the biggest win for me. So prepare in advance, because when you get that interview and you're scrambling at the last minute, you do not know yourself as well as if you had early preparation.
Definitely, thank you. That's very useful. Okay, so Dr. Milanie, soon enough, you'll hopefully be embarking on your own residency journey in the US. We're pretty sure about that. Non-negotiable. So, what do you think, from your experience, everything you've done so far, is the biggest or some of the biggest misconceptions that IMGs, especially from countries where the system is so different from the US, have about matching into US specialties, especially competitive ones like surgery, for instance?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception is that it's impossible, because it's not. People have done it. I'm not the first to do it. And I think I had the courage to do it because other people did it before me. So I think that's the biggest misconception. And I really want to shout it on the rooftops. And every time someone asks me, it's not because I'm so great that I'm doing it. I'm not. I'm an average person who had a big dream. The only thing is I had the motivation to work for it, and I was okay with the sacrifices that I knew I will have to make along the way. So I think it's knowing that it's possible. It's seeing that if one person did it, then it's doable. But just understanding that you will have to sacrifice a lot. You might not match the first time or the second time, and that's okay. If this is really what you want, I think if you keep pushing, you can do it. IMGs are great physicians. I've seen IMGs in every single specialty in the US, from surgery to family medicine to dermatology, even orthopedics, and they're all doing so great. And we're all coming from different countries. We speak different languages. We're not the same, but we have one thing in common. Our one thing in common is our determination, and I think that's what makes us good physicians. So
That's awesome. So you would say that there is no impossible specialty?
I don't think there's an impossible specialty. I think if you work for it the right way, you give it enough time, and you really make sure that you tick all the boxes, then if it's for you, it's going to happen.
I see. Okay. So,
And even if you want to think you can prove it wrong, there is data to show you every year how many IMGs match into which specialties, even neurosurgery. Okay. Yeah. Every specialty is all of you. You got it.
I would say my best friend, she's Lebanese. She matched in neurosurgery last year in Chicago.
Wow.
And she took 2 years of research, and she did it because she believed that it was possible. So it's doable.
I see. That's quite amazing, honestly. Okay. So, Dr. Esha, were there any certain experiences, anything that you believe stood out, whether it was something clinical, research related, or otherwise? And is there like something in particular that you feel just clinched that match for you when you got your match? I know you talked about lots of very important things, including research and the interviews, but is there something that maybe most people fail to think about or recognize, or something that people would usually consider to be not that important or significant, that you thought actually played a huge role in your experience and you getting the match?
Honestly, I think my ability to put myself out there on a social platform changed the game of my match journey. I think that when you are an IMG, you have to network in ways that you never knew were possible before. And so social media was just becoming one of those. I will say going to conferences has always been like a good way to meet people, but sometimes you can't afford that. And a lot of people can't afford to even come overseas to go stay in a hotel somewhere random you've never been before. I think honestly, my ability to put myself out there and talk to people on multiple platforms was probably one of the biggest game changers in my application and just getting interviews. Also, the grit, like, you know, we have that grit. I was cold emailing people and sending those letters of intent, and I was getting like interviews from that. I remember I sent one to this program. I was like, hey, I updated all my stuff. Here's more research I've done. Next day I had an interview. So it's all about what you're doing for yourself.
That's very interesting. Okay, Dr. Melanie, if you had to narrow it down to three absolute necessities, in your opinion, requirements for IMGs pursuing surgery in the United States, what would they be? Three things.
Okay. So might be cliche, but really like it's that simple. Number one, if you can come for elective rotations in the US, be it hands-on or observerships, because I know that it's hard to secure hands-on rotations, especially right now. I think that's a non-negotiable, if at all possible, because honestly, in every single interview I was offered this cycle, I was asked about my clinical experience in the US. And about my clinical experience, and I was still asked about it many times. And the one thing that I heard on repeat many times is, you're great, your CV looks great, you're a great applicant, but how do I know you understand the US healthcare system? How do I know you will make a good resident in the US? And I think the way to show them that is to actually come to the US for experience, even if it's just for a month, even if it's just for a few weeks, whatever it is, if you can get it done. I mean, that's something that's really important. The second thing is networking. You have to network with the right people. And it's not just something for IMGs, honestly. Going through the match, I realized even US grads, you know, networking plays a huge role in their match journey. And you don't have to have connections the day you're born. You can make those connections happen, even if you're not able to come to the US. Honestly, the reason why I was able to come to the US for an elective rotation was because in Lebanon, I attended a random conference and I met a Brazilian doctor who connected me with his US surgeon friend. And this is how I secured my hands-on elective rotations at the Cleveland Clinic. So it's that simple. Like, you can be in the whole country, just as Dr. Esha said, put yourself out there, reach out, ask for opportunities. Don't be shy, because if you don't ask, no one's gonna come and just, you know, give you that opportunity. So, you know, elective rotations, networking, and finally, research. Research is really important in every single specialty. I don't think it's just for surgery or competitive specialties. I always say it serves a dual purpose. One, it improves your CV, it does. But two, it grows your network and it puts your, you know, you're here, they know you, they work with you for more than a few weeks. And the letters and connections you get are long-term relationships that really will help you when it's time for you to apply to the match. So
Very informative. Dr. Esha, do you agree? Would you say you have the same three factors? Would you like to change anything?
Okay, re-say the question again. But
The question, yeah. So the question is three non-negotiables or three absolute necessities if you're an IMG who's eyeing a residency, any kind of residency in the United States. So Dr. Melanie said, you know, clinical observerships or internships, elective programs, research, and networking. Do you think maybe you want to substitute one of these with something else?
no, I think I would just add, like, as a part to the networking is finding yourself a mentor. Like, finding this one person or maybe two people in like a different like field that really know how to guide you in that specific route is very huge. I look at a lot of my peers and co-residents who had mentors and I didn't really have one. Very successful. They were able to, you know, make things neat for them, you know, navigate their fields a lot easier than I say I did. So yeah, but I totally agree. clinical observership, networking, word of mouth is huge. Like who you know puts you in a long way. Okay. Puts your application very far down the road. Yeah.
Perfect. Would you say that volunteering or just having some voluntary experience on your CV plays a role in that as well? Do you think it's very important, or is it just something that's good to have but not that necessary?
Oh, for sure, it's very important. Especially if you're somebody that is not in tune with research. If you volunteer somewhere at any kind of capacity and you do it for a long period of time, this is what people want to see, that you have commitment to that. You do something. There's an outcome. You're not just doing it to tick off a box kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Melanie, what do you think?
I think that volunteering is really important. You know, I met with an associate program director before applying to the match this cycle, just to and she's an APG and a big academic program. And I met her at a conference, and I was just showing her my CV before applying to the match and asked her how I can improve it. And the one thing she said is, "You don't have enough volunteering experience," and that's a surgery APG. So that's how important it is, because I think volunteering really shows who you are as a person, the things you're really interested in. And nowadays, we're so focused on scores and research that we forget sometimes that medicine is also about helping people and putting yourself out there, and volunteering is a great way to do that.
Yeah, like in Canada and America, I'm unsure about around the world, we are made to have an amount of community service hours and volunteer hours before we can graduate high school. Like you need that in your application. I think also volunteering shows programs you're kind of doing this from the trueness of your heart. It's not really like a huge CV changer. It's not like you're getting paid. You're kind of doing this out of the goodness of your heart. Volunteering in an old folks home, volunteering at a shelter. Like you have to really want to put yourself in those places to do that. That's what volunteers.
And it's a way to give back. I think when I moved to Durham in North Carolina, I felt like this community really welcomed me. You know, people were so nice to me. Everyone was really supportive. And, you know, my way of giving back to the community was, you know, volunteering at a senior center and giving, you know, medical lectures on what to expect if you have, I don't know, an inguinal hernia surgery, for example. You know, just the little things is you're giving back to a community that's giving you so much. And when you're here in the US as an IMG, I think it's important to always remember that at the end of the day, you're being welcomed into a country, into new communities. And it's really important to be part of those communities. And I think volunteering is one way to do that as well.
That's very true. Thank you. So now we'll be moving on to the fourth and final segment, unfortunately, of our episode, which is about social media and professional visibility. So both of you are very active on social media. We're all very big fans, obviously. I'm sorry.
Some may say too active.
No. I don't. Anyone who says that will be, you know, banned from watching the podcast. so your videos are generally very useful. Many people watch them. They seek inspiration and advice and guidance by using these resources that you post. I have a question, first of all, for Dr. Esha. So you have talked about this to some extent before, but I would like you to maybe delve deeper into that, especially when it comes to your Instagram account and social media presence as it stands. Has being this visible on social media and influential opened any doors for you professionally, whether in terms of networking, collaborations, research, in terms of your residency, or maybe even in terms of your current career and life as a specialist?
I will say from the moment I started, I wasn't getting much fruitfulness. It was just for me. The moment I started, I had a goal with my page. What do I want to do? What is my niche? And what am I going to get from this? 100 million%, it opened doors from through med school all the way to now as an attending physician. I have mentioned earlier in this podcast that I gained interviews off of my social media content. Whether it was just posting about my academia, I met other people who wanted to do research. I also collaborated with other people who wanted to do research, get them on papers that I was working on. So I was kind of trying to also get back. I showed off this, okay, image. This is me. I'm this well-rounded person. These are all the things I do. I'm not just medical. Yes, it focused medical at first because that was the direction I wanted. I was like, I have a niche. I'm helping IMGs, and I know I want to be medical content. Now that I got to, be an attendee, I can show more of who I am without being, easy. Yes, you can't do this. No, social media is crazy. It's amazing. Like I've partnered with a company and I get to make money off of my social media now. So when I wasn't in a job for about 6 months because I'm still waiting for my visa, I didn't have my job in Canada, I was making money from social media.
Yeah.
So I think it not just monetary, it's a community, it's a network, and there's so many people that look to you for advice, and you get to influence people, you get to advise people, you get to encourage people in the way you want. I don't know. That question is so loaded. There are so many instances in particular where I can tell you that social media has only benefited me. I can't tell you any way in which it has negatively taken away from me as a person and the things that I want to do in my life. I got 2 interviews. One from a program that I didn't even think would even keep me on their radar. I got 2 interviews from my social media content during my match process. Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I just think quick words and putting yourself out there will always attract somebody that finds what you're doing very helpful. And you just need one person to be like, wow, I really like what they're doing. I really want them to kind of get on board with me on a project. And that's really all you need. It's so hard putting yourself out there, but very, very rewarding, very, very fruitful.
Definitely. It's a way to show people how awesome you truly are then. Okay. Dr. Melanie, so kind of the same question. I'd like to get your perspective. How would you say that social media and your activity on social media has helped your career? And in what ways has it done that?
I think one thing I always think about is the page. So just to go back to how I created this page, when I was in the US for rotations, I realized that there are so many things that if I knew would have made the process so much easier. And it's just about putting the information out there so that people know about it. So that's when I started posting about, US clinical experiences and research and just like my daily life. And so many people were interested. And I realized it's because people don't have access to this information that honestly should just be available out there. So that's how it all started for me. The way it really helped me is I think it's helping people a lot, but it's also helping me because it's a motivation to wake up in the morning and feel like so many people look up to you and remind you of things that you don't see yourself. Like I wake up every day and I think about what if I don't match? What if this happens? And then someone DMs me and is like, I admire what you did and I'm still a med student. And I wish I had that. And they remind you that what you have right now was a dream like a few years ago. And I think this is a big part of why I just still show up every day and every morning and I still push and I have this attitude that no matter what happens, what I'm living now is someone else's dream and it used to be my dream just a few months ago. So I think that's one way it helped me a lot. Another way it helped me is I don't think I necessarily got interviews because of my Instagram, but I think most of my interviews were 100% focused on talking about this platform and how it started and why I'm doing it, because it makes you special, it makes you who you are, and it makes you more than a score or a publication or just, an applicant applying. So I think that people are really interested in that. And nowadays, I think physicians are starting to be more interested in social media and podcasts and having their own platforms. That's the generation of physicians. So
can I ask more things? Can I add 2 more things?
Definitely.
So I had 2 specific experiences where social media was a game changer. So I got asked in my second round of matching, tell me about a time you made a mistake in your clinical practice, right? So I talked about this time that, like Dr. Milanie said, you're in the OR. It's a very, very vulnerable place for the patient to be, and they're trusting you. So, you have to be very clean. Like it's the cleanest place in the entire hospital. You can't what is the word again? Break sterility. Okay. So I unfortunately had my hands in a certain place. I broke sterility. I was told to ungown and then regown, blah, 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 blah. I went on to go make a post on my social media back then, before I had all my interviews. Oh, okay, these are all the important things that you should recognize when you're in the OR, how to excel on your surgical rotation. Who knows, 2 years down the line, I got asked this interview question, and then I reflected on this, and I told them, like, look, the time I made a mistake was in the OR. I realized why this was so crazy, why this was like so impactful, why this one little mistake is huge for a lot of people. And then 3, I went on to go educate people on my social media platform. Great answer for them. Another time where social media was huge was I was applying for attending jobs. So I had this job out in Princeton that they were really looking at my application. And then they were like, oh, I told them about my social media, and jobs, just like Dr. Milanie said, are very interested in using social media to add to their level of medical education. And so they really were interested in me, not just for my application, but for the fact that I had this side of the social media presence and how I was using it to not just educate my peers, but educate patients. So not just med school, but in your future as an attending or when you're trying to get jobs, it's very helpful if you know how to style your social media content in the right way.
Also, like, Esha, like working, like social media really helps with networking, especially if you're not able to come to the US. Like, one example, I was at a conference recently and Dr. Esha reached out and she was like, oh, I know the surgeon was at the same conference. Just reach out to her, say that, Esha told me to, it's that simple. Like just one DM can make you meet that one person who may be the key to an interview or a job or, whatever it is. So, and I think many IMGs are on social media trying to take the information from social media nowadays, because unfortunately there are no other resources out there. So we put them out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Esha, you said that you can't really think of any negative experiences that you associate with your work on social media, but I do have a question. So, so as they say, the internet and social media, it's like a double-edged sword, Has it ever been a factor that maybe complicated your life, your residency, your private life, your practice, maybe in some crazy way that no one would expect?
Yeah, for sure. I think when you start out on this platform, you need education on how to market yourself. And sometimes your professionalism does not match the setting of your life. So, for example, when you're in residency, you're a part of this network and you need to be professional for that network. So, there was a time in residency where I was educated on how to be more professional on my social media. Not that it took away from anything, but you do have to change certain things about what you decide to put on social media based on the phase of your life or the part of your life. I assume when I'm no longer doing a locum physician and I join my practice, hopefully in the future, when I join RWJ in New Jersey, that I will have to change things, that I'm not going to be super like making content all the time, because I want to show that people that I'm, focused, I'm doing my job. I'm not just like a content creator. So I think things do have to change based on the phase of the life that you're in.
Excellent, definitely convincing. I was looking for something maybe, a bit more intriguing, but that's honestly a great answer.
Like, what do you mean into like?
No, maybe just like, sometimes you always hear these very interesting stories on social media, for example, a stalker showing up without looking or something. I was looking for some action for the podcast.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. I love people asking for money on social media. I'll be like, dude.
Like some kind of lost prince. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad nothing of that sort has happened to you though, and I hope nothing does. Let's go. Okay, Dr. Valerie, a similar question, kind of different as well. So, what responsibility do you think that medical professionals, such as physicians, have when they are creating content for social media about things like exams and residency and any kind of advice or tips?
I think you have responsibility to two different audiences. One, the people who follow you, and two, like Dr. Esha said, your program or your institution, or I mean, depending on the phase where you are at, at the time. So first of all, you have to be professional. Unfortunately, there are things that sometimes you want to talk about or give your opinion on that, and it might not be the best thing to do when you're a resident in a specific program. So that's really important just to keep in mind, because what you post, sometimes people associate your page with the institution. They don't always understand that it's my person. No matter how much you write, views are my own, and I'm not affiliated with any institution. Sometimes they associate you with your program if you're a resident, or the hospital if you're a physician. So that's really important. The responsibility you have towards the people who follow you, I think, is right now what matters the most to me, because I'm at that point. You really have to be real. I think the big problem with social media is we only see the success stories. We only see people with 270s on step 2 who were born with all the connections in the world, and people don't post about their failures and don't post about the bad days. And I think that's something I and a lot of people have been trying to change. Like, be real out there. Just try to show, if you really want to be out there, sharing your experience, try to show people that it's accessible, and really try to show the ups and downs. That's what I feel is my responsibility right now, because people will really take your advice to heart. And sometimes one thing you can say can literally sway someone away from a dream they had. So I think it's really important you be real to yourself and to the people who follow you, to be honest and to show the good and bad days if you're comfortable doing it.
Definitely. Thank you.
Can I say one thing too?
Definitely.
I completely agree with everything she said. And one thing that I also feel that I owe to anybody that's seen my content is that I make accurate information. So like what you come here is accurate. It's not just like made up. It's from personal experience or from real data. I think we owe it to the people who are visiting this, that this is true information. Like, we're not making stuff up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, totally. Like, especially the past few years with the visa changes and the things that happened, so many misconceptions out there. I really wanted my account to be a place where people can actually find the right information. And if I don't have the right information, then I simply don't post about it. You don't have to post about everything just for views. And so many people ask me, like, why haven't you shared your match journey? I usually like to share things I accomplished, because I can give all the advice in the world for people applying to the match. If I didn't match yet, this might not be the best advice. Maybe there's something that down the line, when I end up matching, hopefully I can look back and, think about, and this is when I will be able to give, the better advice. So I think it's really important to make sure you're giving the correct advice and you're not just doing it for the views and for the likes. And
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to hearing all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sure that many medical students and medical graduates who watch this episode will find your advice and your stories very useful and interesting and inspiring. Is there one last message that you would like to give to whoever is listening or watching? Dr. Esha.
I mean, I've always had this like quote that has carried me through everywhere I go, that nothing worth having comes easy. And I really think that that's my entire journey with medicine. But if I could tell anybody that, if this is really worth it for you, if this is really your goal, your dream, and you can see yourself doing nothing else, then grit is really like probably one of the biggest assets that you can have.
Dr. Na, I keep interrupting you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. it's the internet lag. but please go on.
I just said, please reach out to us. We're so like Dr. Milanie and me, like, and all the creators that you see on social media, we want to help. So if you think that you really have no avenue and you feel alone in this journey, know that we are always there. Or if we can't help you, we will try to do our best to connect you to somebody that can.
Thank you so much. Dr. Milanie, any last words?
I think what I always say when people ask me what's one thing you can tell me, I wasn't top of my class. I was good, but I wasn't top of my class. The first physician in my family, I had no connections. Now I have the connections. I stuck, sorry for the word, at exams, and I worked so hard and I ended up doing well on my step exams because I worked for it. All of this to say, you don't have to be the best in order to make it happen. You will have to work in order to become the best version of yourself. And I think eventually there's a home for everyone, whether in the US or not in the US. If you really work towards it with nothing, you will build something so big and you're going to look back and be like, did I really do this? So you can, it's not impossible. Surgery, neurosurgery, dermatology, family medicine, internal medicine. I can list all specialties out there. It's possible. You just have to believe in it. And like Dr. Esha said, we're here to help you. We're here to answer you. Reach out. Like, the biggest mistake you can make is not reach out, because people really want to help, believe it or not.
Thank you.
Okay, that's really important. I think if every person helps one person out there, we can just make the world a better place.
Seriously.
I definitely agree. Dr. Esha Jain, Dr. Milanie Milan, it's been our pleasure and honor to have you as our guest today. You're the best guests any moderator could ask for. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for all the valuable lessons and advice. And it's been honestly a true joy to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Doctor on Doctors, real conversations between physicians for those still finding the way. Thank you so much. So we'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.